Welcome, everybody. I just finished an interview with Rusty Labuschagne. I thought it was a very interesting and unique interview. We talked about his life as a multimillionaire in Zimbabwe before he was then falsely accused and sentenced to 10 years in prison during the Zim dollar crash. And we also talked about his encounter with God in prison and his walk with God ever since. He has a book called Beating Chains. I've attached a link in the description. If you're interested, please check it out. Anyways, let's dive straight in.
You were a really successful entrepreneur in Zim. What was life like before prison?
Josh, going back to my childhood. So quickly, I'm French Huguenot. So my ancestors are they landed in the Cape between 1688 and 1691. In 1913, my great-grandfather trekked from De Aar in the Northern Cape up to Southern Rhodesia to a little place called West Nicholson in a cattle ranching background. And it was humble beginnings and boarding school at 6 years old.
At 6 years old?
Yeah. 200 k's away from home. And even if your folks came to town, you weren't allowed to see them. You're only allowed to see them once at half term. We got three-month terms. That was tough. I didn't have good memories, the bullyings and beatings, my masters and matrons to a little 6-year-old boy. I hated junior school. 1 week before I left, I lost my dad. I had just turned 12. And, being out there, he was the main breadwinner and everything, turned our lives upside down. And then I enjoyed the wild ways of the Rhodesian Bush War on cattle ranches throughout my teens with my uncles. And I was crazy about rugby and water polo, and both being rough sports in the war environment created a wild, hardy character. I mean, hardships are part of everyday life. And I'm pointing this out specifically, Josh, because I believe that resilience is something that is learned. You're not born with resilience. You're born with fortitude. And I think that my hard upbringing stood me in good ground for what I had to go through. And then, Josh, I was very lucky. The opportunities in 1980 when it became Zimbabwe were huge, and it was very easy to get loans. And I worked like a machine, and I borrowed a lot of money, went into the safari business in hunting safaris, and I was extremely successful. And by the year 2000, I was flying my own airplane, 5 safari camps, fishing resort in Lake Kariba, flashy cars, houseboats, speedboats, you name it. I was living the life. And then, on the 3rd of April, on 29th of November 2000, I was on a fishing trip with some friends and chased some poachers, which we all do as an operator, a safari operator, whether you're in fishing or hunting. You're in charge of controlling the poaching in that area. And then you catch poachers and you report to national parks. And there were 2 well-known poachers that I had seen many times, and I saw them one evening, just a mate of mine in our boat, and I made direct for them. It was 5:30. So I just intended to scare them off, because to arrest them and take them to parks is 2 hours there and 2 hours back. So I thought, I'm not driving 2 hours. Anyway, the wake of my boat tilted their boat, and they jumped out into the water. They were about 3 meters from the shore. It was only 1.5 meters deep, scrambled to dry land and ran off into the bush, and we thought nothing more of it. The following day, the police arrived with one of them and accused us of drowning the other one. And it got very political, very ugly. No evidence was produced at all, no body. And
Were you tried without a jury?
No, it's just a judge.
So no jury?
No, well, we don't have a jury in Zim. You just have a judge and 2 assessors. And you learn when you go to prison that there's the corruption in the justice system is disgusting.
Sure.
Now, armed robbers control everything. And I got 15 years, 5 of which is suspended. But I spent 10 years in prison.
What is it, Rusty, what does it feel like you're in the courtroom and you haven't done anything, and you're innocent. What does it feel like when you get sentenced to 10 years, 5 suspended? What happens inside of you?
for 15 and 5 suspended.
15 and 5 suspended.
Yeah.
Phew.
You know, Josh, ironically, the pressure, because there's 2.5 years from the incident to the trial, and then 9 months to the judgment.
Were you able to stay at home during that time?
Yeah, but the pressure of the unknown, because there started to be political twists started coming in. And there was a judge that tried to help me have my passport released. He was arrested and put in jail, not impeached. So when it got to that level, it was presidential level, because he was appointed by the president. He didn't climb the judiciary system like the other judges.
Who was the president at that time? Mugabe?
Mugabe was the president, but Justice Benjamin Paradza was the judge. And he was a 42-year-old lawyer related to the president. And he had done it was during the land invasion chaos. And sadly, everyone was lied to and made feel that they were entitled to anything in the country just to gain popularity. It was what they pushed. And that was how the whole incident occurred. There's these poachers suddenly, and they told me to my face, we want your fishing resort. That was about a week before the incident.
What did you say?
Well, I won't repeat it on here. You know, when you're doing really well, Josh, it's also a lesson for guys. You sort of think you're bulletproof. You know, you're flying high and mixing with the world's elite Masfari business. So I was flying around in private jets with clients and living the life, Josh. I mean, I wanted for nothing. Money was no object whatsoever. And you do get a sense of arrogance, a sense of power, and thinking that you get a little bit arrogant. And when you're living in Africa, the lesson here is just be very careful who you think you can override or ignore. Like that, after the incident, there was a guy who said he used to work for us and we fired him. He was an ex-policeman guarding the boats because Zambians used to come and steal the boats. And we caught him sleeping so many times. There were 5 different businesses. Yeah. The other 4 were fishing cooperatives, Kapenta fishing. Kapenta, a little fish that they catch with huge nets at night with a light. And he kept on, we all got together and hired him. And because he was caught sleeping, we fired him. Anyway, after the incident, the following day, when it was reported, I just called the police. You know, I don't want, because the land invasion story was there and they came with knobkerries and pangas and everything to my resort. And I thought, okay.
What did the police say?
Well, they hadn't arrived. So I said to the guy they reported, which was my neighbor, I said, just call the cops. You know, I don't want to start getting involved, negotiating with these guys, nothing. And while I was walking away, he said, no, I'll call the cops, but this guy, Makuri, who used to work for us, was an ex-policeman, and he said he wants to do investigations himself. And then when he finds out, he'll call the cops. So I said, that's fine. And when I walked away from there, he came up behind me and he said, Mr. Rust, your guys stole my pots. I said, what do you mean? He said, no, when I was staying with your laborers, they stole my pots before I left. So I said, Makuri, you're coming here and you're telling me I drowned somebody. And then you're coming and you're starting to bring up a little thing like pots. If you're so clever at investigating, why don't you find out about your pots? So he said, are you sure? I said, yes. He said, okay, we'll see. And that little thing, Josh, turned that whole thing around, because that's where the whole conspiracy started. And then from there, he had connections to the AG's office, and then it went higher and higher, until it got to where the judge was thrown in jail. I mean, it was hectic.
So you were framed by the police, the court, and the poachers.
Yeah. And then it got to that judge. Then for some reason, he went to 3 other judges. And they all said he tried to bribe them. And he said they all wanted money. So they got together and went to the Minister of Justice. He went to the president. And that's when the judge was incarcerated. And then when the judge came out, that was during the land invasion chaos. That was in January 2003. And he slandered the President Mugabe, Minister of Justice, and the whole system in every international paper. Because CNN, BBC, Sky News, they were all there at that time. And my name was attached to every article. And that's where it all went wrong. Yeah. And the war was on between the president and the judge. And they told me, unless, he said, a very prominent lawyer told me, he said, unless the judge is guilty, they can't prosecute him. And the president wants him. And you have to be guilty to prosecute the judge. So that's where. Anyway, let's get to the prison side.
So how many years did you spend in Chikurubi?
Chikurubi. My first prison was Kami Max. That was outside Bulawayo on a farm. I was there 1 year. And I want to tell you, because you asked me what it's like when you're sentenced.
Yeah.
That goes through your mind, Josh. The release of the anxiety and the unknown. Because you can't get your teeth, you can't defend yourself in any way because you don't know where you are, where you stand. But once I'd been convicted, then I could make a plan of a way to try and get out.
Were you Christian at this time?
No, I wasn't. Yeah.
Oh.
I had everything, And in those days, I need those that need help, go to church and pray. That's how we grew up not praying, Josh. Morning school, in those days, there wasn't a big Christian movement in Zim. And everyone who was close to God or went to church and that was considered weak. That's how we were. We were wild, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, Josh, it's very different now. And those guys that where I was are the ones I'm trying to reach now.
Wow.
But we'll get to that. Then we get to, so that was a relief, Josh, in a way,
Sure.
But then, when I left that courtroom, you get into this truck with all these loud, wild.
That was actually my next question. Just can you run me through what happens the minute after you get sentenced?
Okay. Yeah. So you get into this truck and it's 26 k's out to the farm, and you get there and it's just they're loud, they're sharp.
Who, the guards?
No, the prisoners, because there are other prisoners coming to court for remand and all kinds, and then you chucked in with them.
Are you shackled now?
No, not when you get in. Not when you get in there. Yeah. And when I got to the prison, the first thing they take your name and everything, and then you strip naked, and you got to walk through the courtyard, through huge wooden doors into the maximum security exercise yard, naked. And there were 1,000 guys in there. I was the only white guy. You talk about terrified. I don't get scared easy, but let me tell you, I was, terrified to the core. And then they make you crouch down, stark naked in front of these 1,000 guys, and they're all just firing questions at you and insulting you. And then the guards asking you where you come from, what do you do, where's your family from, what's your crime. And then they issued me a tattered white short-sleeve shirt and a pair of drawstring white shorts. For the first 8 years, that's the only one set of clothing was allowed at any one time. No underwear was forbidden, so there's no underwear.
And you said I remember you saying you got a new set every 6 months.
Yeah, sometimes. 9 months, yeah. Yeah, and you're walking around in tatters, and there's no dignity because start hanging out, it's crazy, Josh. It's in there. It's just another world. It's closed in. Your state property. They control what you wear, what you eat, what you drink, what you read, what you write, what you say, what you hear. I mean, there's no radios or TVs, nothing in there. Only stories from armed robbers telling you how to break into cars and houses and what gangs to join, where to sell stolen merchandise. And they call it the college.
The prison.
Yeah, because they go in there, and a lot of innocent guys in there. And,
wow.
A lot.
Sure.
You don't think there are. And ironically, 60% of the prisoners were rape cases. Now, I'll get to that, because it's very different in Zimbabwe as it is to South Africa. If you're charged with rape in Zimbabwe, you've got a 99% chance you'll go to prison. Not like here.
Why?
Well, in the old days, the judges sat in parliament. So there were the chiefs. There were 12 chiefs in the parliament, and they had a say in the governing of the country. And one of the things was their culture, the black culture, is when you marry someone, you pay for her with cattle or
Lobola.
lobola. And if there's damages to that girl before she's married, you have to pay the family for that, for the damages. So if you rape someone or you underage sex or before marriage sex, that's damages and you pay. And the chief used to decide on what that was, what the damages were. When 1980 became Zimbabwe, the chiefs were removed from parliament and judges now resided over those cases.
How many judges were there, Rusty?
Well, just one at a time, but at that time, I'm not sure how many there were in the country. But when you go for a case, it's just one judge there. But it's always been that when you're charged with rape in Zim, you're going to jail.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are a lot of innocent guys in prison.
Wow.
Yeah.
So does it happen often? False convictions?
Big time. And you can tell in prison when you talk to someone and you soon know this guy. He isn't
Doesn't have the...
Because the other big thing was stock theft during the war.
Okay.
And stock theft, you get innocent young guys roped into fun stealing cattle and getting a lot of money for them. And then when they're caught, it's 9 years per animal.
Gee.
So guys would come in with 140 years and it just goes. Yeah. And they were...
No chance.
Yeah, it was a game for them. They didn't realize how severe it can be.
Wow.
So you've got like semi-innocent guys coming in there. The beatings were unimaginable, Josh.
I was going to ask you, what are the conditions like inside, Rusty?
I'll get to that. But the treatment that they get, not only the conditions, sleeping on the floor and the lice and the washing clothes in toilets and no water and no food, was the viciousness of the guards, the beatings with the 1 meter long baton sticks. No, it was, I watched a guard kill a guy in front of me 1 meter away. And I just hit him on the back of the head with a baton stick.
Why?
The guards love to torment prisoners. And the way the prison structured, it was like a tennis court size, 3 stories high to the first prison. And the cells are all on either side of the bottom. And there's a corridor in the middle. And then it goes up the stairs and then same at the top. And there's cells on either side and it's 3 stories high. And the gates, when they come in from the courtyard, because that tennis court size is surrounded by a circular wall about the size of a soccer ground, a rugby field, a rugby stadium. And that thing's in the middle. So when lockup came, they locked the gates, and then the guards outside didn't realize that the guard inside had locked the gates with handcuffs. And they started beating the prisoners on the outside and the pressure and that. And then as he unlocked the gates, they swung open and pushed him out the way. And he just turned around and he clapped the first guy. And he went down, all this ran over him. At the end, there he was. And I was standing right there because I was inside. And yeah, it was horrific. Just put him in a wheelchair and held his head and took him outside and made out he wasn't alive. He's stone dead. Yeah. But when you hear guys being beaten, Josh, knowing that they're screaming for their lives, noise stays with you. It was horrific. The things I witnessed in there, I don't even want to talk about.
Does that harden you, Rusty?
It's stuff that you don't like to revisit. You just don't go there because it's so inhumane that the more you think about it, the worse you feel.
So do you lock it away?
It's locked away. It's like it never happened to me. And it's amazing how you can do that. You do. You put that aside. I mean, my first 6 years, Josh, I'll get to that, but I watched over 2,200 guys die, primarily from malnutrition. People won't understand what it was like during the Zim dollar crash. The Zim dollar crash.
That's one of my questions.
Yeah, Josh, there was no food on the shelves in town. Nothing, not a loaf of bread, nothing. There was nothing. So what do you think it was like in the prison? And that started in...
I don't even like to think about it.
2003 that started. By 2009 is when it ended. But in that time, there was the international crash. Remember the stock market crash?
Yeah, 2008.
2008,
Yeah.
So it just got worse and worse and worse. And that's when guys started dying. And eventually, I mean, the TB was
Yeah.
incredible. The HIV was
Wow.
crazy. And then we had cholera at the end. And
Flap.
yeah, in 2008 and 2009, Josh, when I was moved from a maximum security to a medium security, we were 2,200 guys in maximum. When I went to medium, it was 1,200 guys. And in that 8 months, out of the 1,200 guys, 432 guys died. One weekend, 22 guys died. You know, Josh, you do become, you become numb to it. But when I think back on it, yeah, Josh, the amount of guys I carried, dead guys. And I never forget, one day we woke up and they shouted, how many guys? Then three today. They bring them down wrapped in blankets and just check them on the floor. And then one guy came down and he was almost done. And this medic would come with a trolley to put the bodies from each hall, because Chikurubi is a hexagon and there's a corridor inside, and they just go from hall to hall. And there are 400 guys in each hall. So there's
400 guys in each hall.
Yeah. So you've got 5 halls of 400 guys, that's 2,000. And then the 6th side, because it's a hexagon shape, is half Remond, 200 guys, and half Edmund. So there's 2,200 guys. And they load the 3 bodies on there. And then they said to the medic, what about this guy that's almost dead? No, just chuck him on top. So
He wasn't dead yet.
no, put him on top of the dead guys and off they go. Yeah, what really got me once, Josh, it was in the beginning. And I went to town. So Kami Max, like I said, was 26 k's out of town. And the only way to go to town was in the prison truck. And we woke up in the morning, the guards would go in and shout, how many deaths, how many deaths? And then they'd shout, 1 in cell 3, 1 in cell 7. And then you go, yay, we can go to town, we can go to town. Yeah, I'm telling you, just like, you couldn't believe it. No empathy or, it's just something else. And then when I went to town the one time to go to the doctor or whatever it was, and you get in the truck, you got to step over the bodies to put you in the front so you don't jump out the back. I'll tell you what, it just takes the soul out of you. It just, you just become a commodity. It's just like, you can't get emotionally involved. You won't make it.
So,
You got to.
I just have some stats here. I did some research on the Zim dollar crash. 79.6 million% inflation.
That's crazy.
The unemployment rate, 93%.
Yeah.
It's,
Everything closed. Everything stopped. It was hectic. Yeah.
and probably just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it just got worse.
Well, I was locked up,
Yeah.
so I didn't witness all of that. But I certainly witnessed the food shortage.
Yeah.
There was no food. None. One day we went 3 days with no food. Yeah, and just water.
And where did they get the water from, Rusty?
Well, the water system up to that time was working.
Okay.
And I'll get to that, because that was another story that came. So this is in my first year when I started.
Yeah.
And there was just no food, because from the land invasion chaos, then there was no food on the shelves. So that's when the death rate started. And then TB came in, the guys with HIV started dying. Cholera hadn't broken out then, but the conditions, Josh. So my cell was 13 meters long by 3 meters wide, and we were 79 guys in there.
79 people.
79. They go in, and it's only 3 meters wide, and you just think, and the guys are just coming in, and then chalk marks on the wall. And they show you, okay, this is yours. And it's 33 centimeters, 13 inches, marked out on the walls in chalk. That's your place.
So you slept on a concrete floor for 4.5 years?
Yeah, there's no furniture. No beds, tables, chairs, cupboards, nothing. Not even a mirror. I didn't see my face for the first 8 years. It's nothing, like a newly built hotel with nothing in it, like nothing. Yeah.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
And the toilets?
The toilets are stainless steel bowls sunk into an open 1 meter square cement block in one corner.
And so everyone watches it.
Everyone. but you're not allowed to use it. And it's quite an art that if you want to take a leak, you can't stand there. You have to show you. Stand and you put your one leg over the bowl so there's no spillage whatsoever.
Why are you not allowed to use it? Why are we not allowed to use the toilet?
For hygiene purposes.
Okay.
So yeah, they used to try and stop guys doing that for that reason. And yeah, you'll understand it when someone has to use it, then
Yeah.
better that way.
And showering and hygiene, how did that work?
Well, Josh, the first thing is when you're sleeping on the concrete floor with that much room. Now, I can't fit in 33 centimeters.
Yeah.
So everyone is packed on their sides, with legs all crossing over in the middle, and you have to face the same direction. Otherwise, you breathe because someone's head is there, the back of his head is there, and you feel the other guy breathing on the back.
Yeah, and maybe he's got a disease or something.
Exactly. And
it'd be
breath and everything. So you all face the same direction. Also, your legs cross over, so you all bend your knees together. So you all like sardines stacked. And then when you turn over, they shout, "Turn over!" And then everyone turns over. And that's how it was. Yeah, it was crazy, Josh. And the lice, but no, I can handle hard stuff.
Yeah.
Sleeping on the floor but those lice, there were thousands of them, thousands and thousands, and they never went away. They just bit you day and night. And it was something that's draining, like mentally and physically draining.
And the prison didn't do anything about it?
No, they didn't care. And, I remember one day, I was thinking about this yesterday, strangely enough. I went to the hospital and there was a guy that was, he was almost finished. And I looked in his hair, at the back of his hair, and it was just a moving mass of lice. They're moving. And I just thought, because, we killed them day and night as often as we could. And you would think, someone will say to you, well, what difference do you think it's going to make? You just did it because you didn't want to be like that guy lying on the floor with masses of lice moving in your head. But you just killed them by the thousands. And they're hard to kill. Tough little thing. You squeeze them and they pop because they're two sizes. One is about 5 millimeters long and they crawl like a little worm. And you squeeze them, and if they don't pop, they go in a little ball and you put them down, they straighten up and off they go again. And then the other one is a tiny little thing like a pepper thing. And you've got to pop those on. They pop. I tell you, Josh. And they, just small things like, how did you clean your teeth? Flossing. And I remember one of the things that kept me sane in there, because you got your hygiene, you hang on to it. When you're watching guys die every day. And I remember threading my blanket, pulling the threads out just enough so the blanket doesn't fall apart, to floss my teeth. And you floss your teeth and then put it back in. The small things like that. It was crazy, Josh.
What would you do in your spare time, Rusty?
So we were locked up for 20 hours a day. That's the first thing. So you've got to, in the cells, hours and hours of thinking. And
were you able to make friends or
yeah,
talk?
Josh, but the problem is that with a lot of prisoners and the way they're treated and everything, their behavior runs the same. So the homosexuality was crazy. Married guys, everything. And I would say 80% of the guys are up to that stuff. So, for me, that was hectic. It was, and they attempted to rape me twice, once in my first prison. And when I went in there, Josh, the first thing you do is you find the monarch, so that, you learn quickly who the monarch is, because you need protection.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, it's been so popularized with the groups and hierarchies and stuff. Is that real?
Yeah. No, and I tell you, we all grow up with a fear of prison.
Yeah.
And when you go in there, it's like, what's going to be the smartest thing for me to do in here?
Wow.
And I thought, who's the monarch in here? And everyone spoke about Drager. Drager was an armed robber and he was a tougher guy, like Tyson. He was a short, powerful bugger. And a good-looking, very nice guy. And he could sing beautifully, unbelievably. And they had an old bugger 3-string guitar, 6-string, but 3 strings are left. And he'd just play this thing and sing. I made friends with him, and, all of them have got nothing in there. So it was easy for him to accept me. And we started chatting, and I soon realized he's a hell of a nice guy, fair, and he was very strong. So I said, can I join you with your, training next year? And he said, yeah. And the other guys are not allowed to train. So if you're caught by the guards training, like,
exercising, yeah.
their thing was like trying to get strong to overthrow them. But Driga didn't touch him. The guards were scared of him. Everyone was scared.
So Driga controlled.
Now Driga, he was the king.
How, Rusty? Was there like a currency that people would use? I don't just remember in Prison Break and stuff, they would use like cigarettes and stuff.
Yeah, no, cigarettes is money.
Yeah.
But you can't buy your protection.
Was it easy to smuggle things in?
No, but there were ways to do it. But it wasn't easy. And I did get caught.
Would it all have to go through Driga? If
there were other guys doing it. But you had to find guys that are honest. Because they would say, no, I didn't get anything. Meanwhile, they got it. And, you had no way to prove it. You can't go to the guard and say, hey, this guy, my visitor gave him something and he didn't give it to me. So, yeah, it was all a trust thing, and you can't trust them there. Because you're in prison. It's different.
Yeah.
But Rodrigo protected me a lot. From the showers and lining up to get your food, instead of lining up with 1,000 guys, Rodrigo just say, come with me, and you walk straight to the tent, you get food. And that helped a lot because feeding took an hour. Feeding 1,000 guys one at a time.
Jeez. Yeah. How long was he in there for?
Yeah, that's the thing. Driga left after 3 months.
After 3 months, he left?
Yeah, well, he finished his sentence. And then, the whole system starts again. And that's when they attempted to rape me. Yeah. And that was the next main oaken there.
I don't know if you're comfortable
saying it. Don't touch my backside every time I walk past him. And I said to him, don't do that.
Yeah. And then
I was also nervous of the whole story,
I remember listening to this part of the story. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah, and then he did it the second time, and I warned him again. And then the third time, he was with 2 other guys. And then the way he did it and everything, it was like, it's time. And I just thought, I have to just let it fly now. And then I did. Connected him perfectly.
Knocked him out.
And it was done. And the other 2 took off. His big hero friends. And that was it. The word spread after that, and that, no more attempt. But when I got to Chikurubi, then it's the same process. So there were 4 this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hammered 2 of them, and then that was then there was no more. That's the.
Wow.
But I tell you, Josh, when you're in prison, I had to fight for my life for many occasions in there. And it was ugly.
Survivals.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, and you're the only white guy, they naturally gang together. And they don't come 1 or 2. They come, the one time was 70 against 3 of us. Yeah. 3 of us had to go to the hospital for stitches. And thank God the guards came flying. It was as an altercation on the soccer ground. And
wow.
Because it was rough in there and it was hard. But you had to stand your ground. Otherwise, you'll get cleaned up in there.
And Rusty, after 10 years, how come you got set free? What evidence came about?
Josh, you just served my 10 years.
Okay.
And I was let go, yeah.
Sure.
So, but that's why I do what I do, Josh. So there are 2 reasons. The one is, the more I talk about it, the more therapeutic it is for me. It helped me release it and accept. And I see, because I want to get to my spiritual walk, how the Lord has worked in my life in doing that. And the other one is for the injustice that took place. I wanted to be exposed in every way what actually goes on in there and how much injustice goes on, because it's not only in Zimbabwe. It's all over the world, America included. There's a lot of innocent guys that get incarcerated. The problem is, Josh, that people jump on their keyboards and they think they know the whole story. And you've got some hardcore, because there are guys in there you don't want to see on the street. Let me tell you, some horrible oaks in there.
Wow.
And then they should be hung, because even in there, they're a hazard.
Wow.
And then, no, you can't do that. Or give them protection and everything. But the jails end up stacked to the hilt. After 25 years, they go out, and those guys, within no time, they're up to that same thing. So there are people, when they, the Bible says an eye for an eye. And I'm telling you, if you plan to kill someone and you kill him, you you should follow the same thing. In my view, that's controversial, but that's how, because I've lived there, I've seen the guys, I've been with them, and they'll tell you, because I was put on death row,
Wow.
and they'll tell you, I kill people. Yeah, when a guy said that to you, it's like, whoa, okay.
Wakes you up quickly.
Stay in my cell. Because I was in solitary confinement at that time.
Yeah, Rusty, I wanted to ask about, you spoke about the dark room, and what interests me more is when you started praying. And could you just talk to me about what happened?
Yeah, Josh, so on that side, so yeah, I mean, in the courtroom, yeah, I prayed hard.
Yeah.
No,
Everyone's an atheist, so they're in trouble.
but, and obviously nothing happened. My first year in prison, I prayed hundreds of times to go home and nothing changed. So when I forgave them, Josh, there was something happened there. It was after about a year. And I was tired of all the anger, hatred, and bitterness. I mean, I was angry. And everything I've tried, the lawyers, everything out there just failed. Obviously, because it was from the presidential level. To the extent, Josh, that I had lawyers go, the judge gave me bail pending appeal. And before it went to the clerk to get signed, and obviously had to go through Minister of Justice. Before it came back to the judge to sign, it was refused. And I was told that by the senior public prosecutor after I was released, because he did it. He said, no, I know your case, but there was no way you were coming out. Yeah, I said, God, that's how much influence there was from the top to keep me in prison.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I wasn't aware of it, obviously in there.
Yeah.
So when I forgave them, Josh, I remember walking and I was so desperate. And I just remember looking up and I just said, Lord, take care of them and let me get through this road that's been put in front of me. Or it goes around, comes around, I'll get to the reserve.
That must have been so difficult.
But something happened then, Josh. It was like, no, the Lord will sort that out. I'm not worrying about the president anymore, all those people, the member in charge, all of those guys, the judge, they sorted. And once I accepted that, my whole feeling inside changed.
Mm.
And the big lesson for people is forgiveness doesn't change the person that hurt you. It changes you. And that, I thought about it afterwards, that there was some sort of spiritual move in that feeling.
Mm.
But then I didn't go home for 9 years. So after 7.5 years, and I want to get to this story because when I was moved to medium security prison, that was after 5.5 years, they move you because you're classified. So D class is 5.5 or more years to serve. 3.5 years left, you go to C class. That means you go to medium security prison. And then B class is less than 2 years left. And that you go to the farms or you work in a B class on the farm prisons, not on farms, because they have farms and then they have farm prison.
Yes.
And those guys work in the courtyard and they work on the streets in the cities and that, to see them walking and they're working in the courtyards.
Understood.
And when I was moved to medium security prison, it's much more relaxed and you're locked up for 16 hours a day, not 20 hours a day. And you think those 4 hours mean nothing. They're huge. It's like, there was sunshine and you could watch.
Yeah. I remember you saying the feeling you felt when you touched a tree for the first time in 5 years.
After 6.5 years. Yeah. Anyway, my sister, so after 3.5 years, because of the guys dying so badly, my sister the headquarters started allowing relatives to deliver food to their loved ones daily.
Because they couldn't keep up.
Yeah, because the guys are dying so much. And my sister gave up her career, sold her business just to feed me for 4 years. I mean, Josh, think about your sister doing that. She was married with 2 kids. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for her. There's no doubt about that.
Where's she now?
She's in Harare. I love her.
Wow.
I talk to her often.
Yeah.
And she's, just that pillar of strength.
Praise God.
And I'm close to the Lord as well. Thank you, Jesus. But she said to me that when I moved to that medium security prison, you want an iPod So I said, what's an iPod? She said, it's a thing that plays music. So I said, well, how big is it? Indicated the small fat little thing. So I said, well, how many songs does it play? She said, about 1,000. I said, no way. But where do you put all the CDs? And that's how much technology is advanced. Just 6 years on the big way. Anyway, the following day, the iPod arrived under the salad. And about a week later, one of those cheap Nokia...
Under the salad.
About a week later, one of those cheap Nokia cell phones with a rechargeable battery was slipped in as well. And I tell you, Josh, that was exciting, risky business that you couldn't do in a maximum. Yeah, that I can't tell you all.
But like a movie a little bit, yeah.
It was incredible. A mate of mine gave me his number, and then they would pay for the phone bills and extra battery for the guards to recharge and pay the guards outside. And the life was lekker.
Wow.
And then an NVA prisoner reported me.
Wow.
And after an unexpected search, unbelievably through some quick maneuvering with armed guards, nothing was discovered. But I was sent to solitary confinement for 2 years.
For 2 years?
Yeah. And the cells were 3 meters by 1 meter by 3 meters with a vent, no window.
And just you, by yourself?
Yeah, alone. And in a way, Josh, it wasn't too bad because I had more control of the lice. You think these are small things, but the lice had more control of that. But the cockroaches, I was just telling my wife a few days ago, the showers are about probably about 12 meters by 4 meters, and one side is toilet, one side is shower, and the roof is that cement that they throw it on there. It's like all pebbled cement. That whole thing was one brown mass of cockroaches. Just cockroaches. Thousands of them, hundreds of thousands of them. They'd park there, and then obviously at night, then they go down into the toilet, into the whatever, and into your cell to come and check for food. So, and they weren't stupid, eh? I'm not joking about it. So you'd leave your leftover graze on one side by the door, and then they were allowed to go and graze there. But if they came anywhere near the bed, then I'd blow them. And eventually they knew. They didn't come to my bed. They go and they eat there, and then they go, rest. So good. I have some mates in there. That's solitary confinement. Yeah.
Jeez.
But then...
so talk to me about your spiritual walk.
Yeah, so I'm getting very put down. No, that journey, I just so much that 10 years. And after 18 months in that solitary confinement, because I got my phone back when I was in there. I mean, I had guards charging the battery and then
operating.
Yeah. And then 18 months after I was locked up in there, I was in there 2 years. A guard came to my spiral and whispered at 5 a.m, Russ, they come with your phone. And there's no way of getting a phone out of there. But someone had brought me a protein powder about a month before, and I'd never seen it before. Big story to get it in through the doctor and security and whatever. When I got it, I broke the silver seal, tasted it, never seen the stuff. And then when I put the seal back and closed it, the next time I opened that seal, it stuck. So I thought I'll keep it there to hide my phone. So that morning I opened it, broke the seal, took half the powder out, wrapped the phone in plastic. I never had my iPod that day. I gave it to a mate of mine. Put the powder back, put the seal, closed it. 6 o'clock the guards arrive. And what they do is they make you strip naked. Then you jump with your legs open like you're hiding something. Or and you walk out stark naked into the courtyard, 1,200 guys. And they do the search. And I come back in there and everything is upside down everywhere. But my protein powder is still cool. So, all lekker. 5 minutes later, I'm summoned to the security office. And I walk in there and there are 4 guards standing, one seated behind a desk in an empty chair. I hadn't sat in a chair for 7.5 years.
You hadn't sat in a chair for 7.5 years?
Yeah. So he said to me, take a seat. I sat down. He said, do you have a girlfriend called Karen? I said, no. He said, I don't before prison called Karen. He said, okay. When did you last talk to her? I said, long ago, before prison. He said, are you sure? I said, yeah. He handed me a letter addressed to me from Karen. So nice talking to you on the phone the other night. You sound so positive. Yeah.
Did you talk to her?
Yeah. You wrote the letter. So, and I just thought, sure, I'm going to get out of this one. And I tell you, Josh, it was another spiritual moment because this thought just came, and I said, no, Karen was having lunch in Bulawayo, and she met a lady there, and I started chatting, and soon realized that they both had boyfriends in the same prison. So the lady said, let me call my boyfriend who's a guard in there. He can call Russ. You guys can chat. So I used the guard's phone. So, and then the Christians, they were getting furious. But after I couldn't tell them what the guard's name was, because that was the next thing. And then an hour later, they escorted me up to the officer in charge's office. When you go up there, it's big trouble. And there were like 15 big brass officers was standing in a half circle. The officer in charge had got everybody in there. And he was sitting, officer in charge, behind his big desk, my empty chair in the middle. He said, take a seat. So I sat down. He said, if you don't tell me what that God's name is, your life in this prison is going to change. So I said, officer, I don't know his name. And then the question started, how tall was he? How old? What ran? Where did you...
Trying to profile them.
Yeah, how long ago did you make the call? And I answered as best I could, and they were getting furious. And then the head of the soccer, a very nice officer, he said, do you want to talk to officer in charge on your own? So I said, yes, please. So all leave, close the door. I said, after we've both been through hell, we watched hundreds of guys die. I donated endless stuff to the prison service. I said, can't you just let this one go? He said, Russ, I don't care about you, but I want that God's name now. He's furious. I said, officer, I don't know his name. He said, okay. Because the officer says, put him on death row in the dark cell. So they escorted me over to the condemned section. They used to hang guys in those days. And there were 6 cells. 52 had guys waiting to be hung. And that's where the guys told me I killed people. And then of those 4, one of the cells, same as solitary, the confinement, 3 meters, 1 meter, and 3 meters. But the dark cell had a staircase built over the vent. So it was pitch black and the light didn't work. They put people in there to break them, to make them stick. So they made me strip naked, gave me 3 worn-out, filthy blankets, a 5-liter container cut off the top of the toilet, same as solitary, and a liter of water. They locked me in there, Josh, for 23 hours and 45 minutes a day. So I was allowed out 5 minutes in the morning to clean my teeth, 5 minutes at 10 o'clock to have a shower, 5 minutes at 3 o'clock to prepare for locker. It was cold, lonely, and dark. I couldn't even see my hand. It's like being buried alive. And I just remember Josh walking, just holding the walls, doing some press-ups, walking, sit-ups.
Did your mind start to play tricks on you?
No, just trying to think of whether they're going to find my phone. I mean, it's a long story, but I had to try and get the message to Phil, to mate him on there, to get the phone out of there. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. It's too long. But after 6 days, Josh, I was finished there. I got on my knees and I prayed. And I'll never forget the feeling of like warm water being poured over me. And I only prayed once before, and I'm not joking, once before that. I got lost during the war. I was 19. And it's a long story, but it was hectic. I was in a very serious situation in the middle of a very dangerous area, yeah. And I was all alone. I was at school. I was 18 years old, 1979. And I got on my knees on the top of that mountain just as it was getting dark. And I prayed. And there wasn't a settlement or anyone living within 20K radius. I mean, I was in the middle of nowhere. And I had this feeling of like warm water being poured over me. And I had no idea what it was. I mean, I was wild, check those space, drinking and fighting and everything. Yeah. And I just stood up very calmly, like something was just saying, walk the same way you'd come up, walk down the solid granite mountain. When I got to the bottom, when the solid granite went into the soil, was long grass, and I just carried on walking. Somebody said, just walk. And I walked and walked. And 10 meters further were 2-car tire tracks. My uncle tried to could have bulled there during the rains there before.
Wow.
Now, Josh, let me tell you, there's 25,000 acres with a handful of roads and very few fences, and none anywhere near where I was. So that's how far back the Lord was trying to reach me, because I followed those tracks. They faded. Then I saw where they cut the trees to get the car in there, and through these mountains till I got to the main road where they were all lined up shouting, looking for me the whole day. And I never told anyone what happened on that mountain that day, because I thought they'd laugh at me. I think I was crazy. And that's how it was in that place. So when it happened on death row, I knew straight away. I said, no.
It's not a coincidence.
It's like enough. I just sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, And within 30 minutes, I faintly heard my Afrikaans mate shouting from the top ground, "Hey, Ras, everything's okay." So I thought, okay. Bed on the concrete, looking out for the darkness. Within 10 minutes, I unlock my door. Those metal locks, that noise goes right through. Shake me in my clothes. Said the officer charge want to see you. So I go out into the blinding sun, across the courtyard, up the stairs to his office. His exact words were, he said, "Hello, Russ." I said, "Hello, officer." He said, "Have you remembered the girl's name yet?" I said, "No, officer." He said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it in God's hands. You can go back to your cell."
Wow.
And at the exact moment when I was praying, my sister was paying him $200 to get me out of there. And that was a huge turning point in my spiritual walk, Josh. Then I started realizing, and I still didn't go home for 2.5 years, but I knew there was something bigger in this whole thing. There's no ways those 2 incidences, then I knew that there's a higher power involved here. But when I got released then, Josh, it was tough. I was working for guys who used to work for me.
What does it feel like to step outside of prison after 10 years?
It was like heaven, but it was tough, Josh. And the amazing thing was, I don't want to divert too much because I want to carry on the spiritual walk, but the biggest difference for me, Josh, wasn't the streets and the houses and the trees. It was the people. Like some of them, it's like, "What happened to you, Chuck? Have you eaten your kids?" Oh, this huge. And others hadn't aged at all.
Wow.
And that made me realize how people sometimes just forget about looking after themselves, And so the first few years working for guys who used to work for me was tough, Josh, and far away from God. I didn't remember him. I didn't pray, nothing, because it was hard. And then when I was doing a safari and I met a guy who was the head of a big company here in South Africa, and I told him my story, and I'd done a talk for about 120 farmers at a sit-down dinner in Harare Royal Golf Club. And it had a huge impact. And he asked me if I had a copy of that speech. So I said, yeah, and had a look at it. He read it. Said, "I've got a new life for you, my friend. This is your calling and I want to help you." So I said, "No, Jan, you've had too much red wine." But and sure enough, he flew me to Joburg and we put a PowerPoint together and started traveling around Hoedspruit, Nelspruit, all over. Just talking to all Zimbabwean gatherings. And then a speaking bureau heard about it, and that's when I met my wife. That was in 2016, and she was very close to the Lord. And that's where my spiritual walk started moving, because I was more hungry. And then, ironically, we got to live with Pastor Ray McCauley for 8 months.
Wow.
For 6 months, in his cottage. And I got very close to Pastor Ray. And, in his church, I'd listen to him every Sunday, and then they had other big speakers like Creflo Dollar and Rick Godwin and Tommy Barnett. And I listened to all of them, Josh, but it never, because I also gave my life to the Lord in 2018, but I didn't open my eyes and everything was different. So, and then after that, listening to all these guys, it still didn't make me totally, or break those walls around me that I'd built up, especially after prison. And I think I probably had a lot of demons still in me from those guys. And then 2019, we were offered a free trip to Israel. And that was, I just wish I could go again now.
Wow.
Because, my journey hadn't really started, Josh. And I learned, I remember looking at the street where Jesus carried the cross. And it was
something here.
Yeah, and then going into the tomb where they laid him to rest. And you could feel when you're going there, sure. I mean, it's
So there's a presence.
Yeah, and then, in Capernaum, all the foundations are still there, and you walk and you're just thinking, Jesus walked here, and that's where he started his ministry.
That's so cool.
And so that was on the Sea of Galilee,
Yeah.
floating in the Dead Sea. But in that trip, Josh, we were very, very privileged to have Angus Buchan speak at the Feast of Tabernacles.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's 4,500 of us. And I remember, I know we're running out of time, Josh, so I'm trying to push it. The 4,500 people, when you go in there, you get a little thing to eat and a bottle of water. And as you walk in, you're given that and you go through. And as I walked through, there was a tall guy there, like American accent. And he said to me, "Are you a preacher?" So I said, "No," it's a friendly guy. And I'm drinking. And he said, God's going to place a mantle upon you. I looked at him and said, "Oh, he's very friendly." So anyway, he prophesied a little bit more on me. Said, "You must position yourself." And I had no idea what he was talking about. And then when he left, I remember saying to my wife, because he also prophesied over her, and I said to her, babe, wasn't mental. I mean, I had no idea about anything. But after that, I found out who he was. He was a very prominent prophet.
Wow.
But Angus Buchan, so again, then Angus is preaching. And at the end, Josh, he made everyone vow that they would read the Bible, because his message was about the power of the word. And we all vowed, and then I said to my wife, if I make a vow, I'm going to do it. And I tried to read the Bible many times, and it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, it gets quite
Probably King James, you know that. And so I thought, okay. So she said, now you buy an NIV, and you start reading. And I started devouring this manly stuff, these killings and wars, and okay. And I loved it. But I think I've read it like 3.5 times. I love it. I mean, I'm a huge Christian now. But that started my walk. And now after that, it was COVID in 2020 and 21. And then I went for a weekend at George, and I was prophesied over there, and I met some guys. And I don't know what happened that weekend, Josh, but when I got home, I was up at 5 a.m. and I was reading my Bible and praying in tongues, and I was in. But then, my whole life, I was so hungry for more and more. And then I was sent a clip by a prophet from Centurion. And I just, listened to all these other guys. But when I listened to this guy, it was like, hey, this can I, and we can. And I just devoured, and he just took me deeper and deeper in.
What was his name, Rusty?
Prophet Leon Depriya. He's controversial, but he just says that as it is. And he listened to the Lord. And that's the bottom line, yeah. And he's incredibly accurate. And he prophesied over me twice.
Wow. 1
year and then the following year. And I don't want to get into it, but the things that he said to me, I mean, no one knows. He doesn't know who I am. Mm-hmm. And they were spot on. And it was like 10 minutes on each one.
Wow.
Yeah. So these huge things ahead of me. That was another thing.
Praise God.
Yeah, because he's prophesied over a lot of guys. And to the day, he prophesied to the government about COVID, to the month, March, and that came.
Wow.
But anyway, and then he's got a branch here in Somerset West.
Okay.
And he kept on saying, you won't reach your full blessing unless you serve in a church.
Wow.
So then we said, okay, we started serving, and then Josh, the doors opened, and that month when we started, then I became a spiritual son of Angus Buchan, and that's another story.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's
the
awesome.
Lord is looking fantastic in my life, Josh.
That's amazing.
I know we nearly finished, but I just wanted to say, Josh, that I see now how the Lord took me from humble upbringings to great success, mixing of the world's elite, flying in private jets across the world, etc., and then being put through that nightmare to find my calling. And believe it or not, I thank God for my 10 years in prison, Josh.
Wow.
I do, because I'm a better person now than I would ever have been had I not gone to prison. Now I believe it made me stronger, closer to God, and understand people more, and it's made me able to reach out to people to tell them that God is out there. He has a plan for you, and don't ever doubt that. And I want to leave that with everybody.
Awesome. Yeah. Rusty, we've got very little time left, but I just wanted to read, there's just 4 things that you said, and I just wanted you to just react to them and just explain them a little bit.
Okay.
You said life in prison and life in Las Vegas. It's still just life. It is what you make of it, no matter where you are.
Yeah, Josh. I realized in prison, because life in prison or in Las Vegas is what you make of it. Whether I was there or not, I still decided that, we would laugh and joke and fool around and practical jokes on one another because it made us feel good. And we realized many times we would watch guys, new intakes come in, like 4 or 5 guys, and 2 of them would be like, they're broken because, it was too much for them, whatever. I'm telling you, Josh, within 9 months, they were gone. Dead. Yeah, so we found things to keep us happy and to take our minds, because you can counsel yourself on how to think in there. If you thought about I was engaged to be married at that time. If I thought about my fiancée with another oak, or my mates on fishing trips, or trips to Vegas, we went over there, it was too painful. And it made me realize that you can counsel yourself on how to think through the physical impact your thoughts have on you. And
wow.
And like I said, to find happiness in even the smallest things that happen in prison kept me healthy. Those who couldn't died. Yeah.
People don't appreciate freedom. I realize that even when we're not in prison, we find a way to imprison ourselves. Sour business partnerships, unhappy careers, being obsessed with money and ambition in the corporate world, even unhappy managers. Yeah, I think that's right. Anyway,
Yeah.
and it's only when you have your freedom completely taken away do you realize that you are actually in prison too.
Yeah, Josh, I wish I could get through to people how precious and priceless freedom is. Freedom is not just not being in prison. Freedom is the ability to make a choice and act on it. Freedom is letting go of what you can't control. Freedom is forgiveness. Freedom brings... if you can be free in all areas of your life, then you'll reach your full potential. And an example of that, Josh, is like if you're in a business and like you have resentment towards somebody or something offends you, your whole flow of thinking stops because of that resentment, like offense. Or if you envy something, like someone bought a new cab and you're still driving this old thing and you should have a new one. If you keep that thing hanging on, it'll stop your flow. It'll stop your creative vision. So there's a lot of things, and we create our prisons like that. We let these things get to us. And people, especially with social media and that, because then you're exposed to all this and you start becoming offensive and envious of all this rubbish instead of just getting on with what God given you,
When you lie in a prison cell with 78 other people and your breath is not even your own, gratitude suddenly has a whole nother meaning altogether.
Yeah, Josh, I'm telling you, accepting that what I went through can't be changed and being grateful for what it taught me has unlocked my vision for my future.
Wow.
Yeah, Josh. Gratitude, and I've done a little bit of research on it lately, how powerful gratitude is. Having an attitude of gratitude is one of the most impactful habits for fulfilling and healthy life. And we need to embrace that. Be grateful. Thank God every day for your health, beautiful family, a lovely wife, beautiful home, running water, soft bed. I've been there when it's taken away, but sure. You lie in a cell with 70 other people and your breath is not even your own. Yeah, then it's and you realize, be grateful for just another breath, for just another thing, wearing nice clothes. You're wearing the same clothes for 6 months. Yeah, you become grateful for these little things.
Rusty, thank you so much for making the time. Rusty Labuschagne, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it.
Thank you.